As World War II raged on, each side worked to build an atomic bomb. The United States ultimately won that race, dropping bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This led to the United States and its allies triumphantly defeating Japan. The tragic loss of life has served as a deterrent of using nuclear weapons. On September 1st, 1939, World War II began. The United States stayed out of it for quite some time. Japan bombed Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, and about 3,500 people were killed. The United States then got involved. Because of the Pearl Harbor bombing, the United States had wanted to get revenge on them, but could not find a way. When President Franklin Roosevelt was informed by Albert Einstein that Germany was building a bomb that would be triggered by atomic reactions, the U.S. government began pouring into what would amount to more than $2 billion into the Manhattan Project. They started building an atomic bomb at top-secret bases in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and Los Alamos, New Mexico. In 1915, Albert Einstein discovered equations which would make it possible for people to create an atomic bomb. In 1939, Werner Heisenberg figured out engineering that would make it possible for such a bomb to be created. There were over 100,000 people that were involved with the Manhattan Project, and each one was sworn to secrecy. Some of these individuals were from the United States, while others, comprising of some Nobel Prize-winning scientists, came from all over the world, including Nazi Germany, a country allied with Japan. There were many challenges that came along. One of the most challenging was making the tiniest particle in the world, the atom, even smaller by cutting it in half. These scientists worked many hours a day to build a bomb, as there were rumors that Germany was almost finished with their bomb. Just 4 years after they started doing research, the scientists tested the bomb that they called the Trinity. The test was a success. They knew it was very powerful when the effects of the bomb made windows break within a radius of 100 miles.
He was in twice. He was in 2 tests. The first test they were in like a shack with a split, and so they could see out into the site that the bomb was going to be detonated from. And it was put on it was not dropped from an airplane, it was put on a tower,
okay.
like a tower, like a tower, I suppose. And that was dropped from that. And they were told they could look through this slit, and in this sort of like a shack that they were in. They had no clothing other than their fatigues. And I imagine they had their helmets on probably too. But other than that, and they had glasses, special glasses. And they said now when they were going to drop it, they were to turn their backs on the site, and they would be told when they could turn around. And then he said there was a big flash and a very strong wind that just really unbelievably strong. And then they were told after so long, you may turn around and look at it. And he said it was absolutely beautiful.
In addition to military and civilian personnel, the researchers used several dummies and animals during this test so they could clearly measure how severe it would really be.
The second time, he was in a trench that they had dug. And it was 1 mile, I think it was only a mile or a mile and a half from ground zero. And they were supposed to the same thing about not looking at it and glasses and all of that. And they were supposed to get them out of there very shortly afterwards. But there was a problem. They had sheep there that they were putting in there to see what they would have, how they would handle it. And a few I don't know how many, but some of the sheep got loose and they couldn't find them. And they had to find them because they were radioactive. And they didn't want them to get with the farmers' sheep around there. It would have been a disaster if that had happened. So they left the guys in the trench a long time, longer than they should have been there. I can't remember how long Bob said anymore, but it was it was more than hours. It was several hours.
Many people pondered over where the bomb should be dropped. When looking at cities, the premise was not to drop the bomb on Tokyo, as this would have killed the Japanese emperor and the war would likely have gained intensity. The top 3 cities chosen were Hiroshima, Kokura, and Nagasaki. Just 2 short weeks after the Trinity had been tested, the United States dropped the atomic bombs. The first bomb, called Little Boy, was dropped on Hiroshima by the plane Enola Gay on August 6, 1945. The United States had planned to drop a bomb on the city of Kokura after bombing Hiroshima, but could not make a visual drop. Nagasaki was attacked on August 9, 1945 by the plane Boxcar, when Fat Man, the second atomic bomb, was dropped. Both bombs contained over 20,000 tons of TNT and were so powerful that they immediately killed over 200,000 people. Over the next decades, many more died from exposure to the radiation. When the news of the United States dropping an atomic bomb on Japan reached Nazi Germany, many of their scientists thought that this was just a rumor started to inspire them to get their atomic bomb finished quickly. The United States experienced triumph as they bombed 2 Japanese cities, which led to the Japanese surrender as well as the end of World War II on September 2, 1945. As the high of the triumph would wear off over the decades to come, the United States would be faced with ultimate tragedy. Soldiers and civilians who were at or near the test sites or involved with the bombings succumbing to radiation exposure that was living in their bodies for years before death. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki has touched hearts of Americans, as a few movies have been made on the Manhattan Project. There are also several museums that have artifacts from the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, as well as websites containing interviews with those involved firsthand with the Manhattan Project. The destruction that happened in Japan was so severe that it has served as a reason not to launch nuclear bombs to other countries. As the years have passed, the destruction has been forgotten worldwide as there continues to be nuclear threats between countries. The United Nations has tried, as have individual countries, to pass laws and institute agreements to not use nuclear weapons.
In honored memory of Bob Freiermuth, United States Army, prepare to fire 3 volleys of musketry. Hey!